doors be open? Que l'on ouvre les portes. Thank you. Serge Cormier. Statements by members. Déclaration de députés. L'honorable.
The honourable member for Acadie Bathurst. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, allow me to sincerely thank the wonderful people of Acadie Bathurst for giving me the honour to serve them as their MP for a second term.
Very unfortunate news. The Brunswick smelter in the village of Beldoon in my riding has decided to close its door. I'm very disappointed in this decision as the smelter is the largest employer in our region, and this closure will result in the loss of 280 jobs and 100 more indirect job loss. This will have a major impact on the economy of the region. Je suis fier des investissements sans...
I'm proud by the unprecedented investments that our government has made in Bathurst. We've shown that northern New Brunswick is not an ideal spot for big industry, but let's not forget that small companies have always been good job creators, and they work in an essential sector to create growth for the region. I would like to assure all those affected by this closure that they have my support and that of the government, and we'll do everything in our power to help them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My first words today will be for the citizens of Lévis, Bellechasse, and Les Etchemins who have re-elected me for their fifth consecutive term. I'd also like to sincerely thank my wonderful team of volunteers, my family, and my wonderful spouse. My entire team are here for people in my riding, and we have a big challenge. And unfortunately, there's nothing in the throne speech, Mr. Speaker, about the labor shortage, about shipbuilding, about high-speed internet in the regions, or cell phones. So we always know that election campaign starts the night you're elected. And in Quebec and Canada, we're going to roll up our sleeves and help Bellechasse, Les Etchemins-Lévis achieve lasting prosperity. Thank you.
Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to rise in the House for the first time as the Member of Parliament for Newmarket Aurora in the 43rd Parliament. I would like to thank the good people of Newmarket Aurora for electing me as their representative. And I thank also all of my volunteers and supporters, and most importantly, my family, and especially Roxanne, my wife of 49 years. I also wish to thank Kyle Peterson for his contribution as a former member and his dedication and his commitment to our community. Mr. Speaker, I've heard very clearly that our community is concerned about climate change, affordable housing, infrastructure funding, health care, and a need for a long-term fiscal plan, but not at the expense of creating a social deficit. And these things, Mr. Speaker, will be my priorities during the upcoming term. And I look forward to working with my colleagues to make meaningful progress in the current term.
The honourable member for Avignon, La Métis, Matane, Matapedia. Mr. Speaker, some people have bigger families than others. In Quebec, Jean Farget watches hockey every weekend. And on behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to offer him and his family our greatest condolences. He left his mark not only on Hockey Night in Canada, but also on the lives of Quebecers. He was also a voice for the Olympics, and he represented our athletes. And he convinced many young boys and girls, including my brother and myself, to get active on lakes and in parks. And for generations of Quebecers, there is no sports arena without Jean Paget. We'd like to thank him from the bottom of our heart. Thank you. The honourable member for Laval-les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, at the onset of this 43rd Parliament, I would first like to congratulate all of the cabinet members on their appointment and all members who re-elected. And finally, I would like to welcome newly elected MPs.
Working hard with my colleague in this chamber in order to proudly serving the Canadians as they deserve a better country. You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because the Right Honourable, the Prime Minister said better is always possible. Aussi, je profite.
Also, I would like to benefit from this opportunity to wish from the bottom of my heart all Canadians in general and all the residents of Laval-les-Îles in particular, my warmest wishes for an exceptional year. Happy holidays, full of friends and family, full of health, joy, and prosperity. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable député de Mégantic-l'Érable.
Monsieur le Président, je lance aujourd'hui un cri du cœur de la part des entreprises de Mégantic-l'Érable. La région manque de main-d'œuvre, les entreprises mettent des projets d'expansion sur la glace et certaines doivent même fermer des quarts de travail parce qu'elles ne trouvent pas d'employés. Chaque jour, mon bureau reçoit des appels d'entrepreneurs et à bout de souffle.
I receive calls every day from...
De traduction. Est-ce que tout le monde peut m'entendre?
Can everyone hear me? There was a problem with the interpretation. Can you hear me? We'll start again. We'll allow the honourable member from Mégantic-l'Érable to start his statement again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I'm sending out in the House a heartfelt cry from companies in Mégantic-l'Érable. There's a labour shortage, and expansion projects are on hold, and they have to end shifts because they can't find the necessary staff to fill the vacant positions. Every day, my office receives calls from entrepreneurs who are at the end of their rope. Not only they're seeing their development potential dwindle, but they have to turn to foreign temporary workers, and this is a complex and expensive process for SMPs. Companies have no room for error, and for the federal government, foreign workers are just a number. If someone forgets to check a box or misses a deadline, these foreign workers have to go home, and everyone has to start again. So these workers are humans. They come here to Canada with dreams, and they're just trying to improve their lives by participating in the growth of our country. It's high time to simplify and humanize this program and its administration to give some breathing room to our regions, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, it's the most wonderful time of the year. This season is about bringing light to people around us. In my home riding of Mississauga, Streetsville, there's so much to recognize as we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. As we remember the teachings of Jesus and act in the spirit of giving, there are aspects of Streetsville that make this season so special. I know Christmas is near because downtown Streetsville is filled with cheer. So whether you're gathering around the table, in a place of worship, or under the tree, I want to wish everyone in Mississauga, Streetsville, and across Canada a very Merry Christmas.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, I was delighted to be a guest performer last Friday at the Pia Bauman Ballet School's annual performance of the Nutcracker. Based in my riding of Davenport, the Pia Bauman School ensures that every child who wishes to create, learn, or perform dance can do so. Thankfully, I didn't fall off the stage, and it was such an honor to share the stage with so many talented performers. Being a part of the Nutcracker reminded me of how art brings people together, gives life to our imaginary worlds, and brings out the magic of the holiday season. Davenport is so blessed with a thriving artistic community, from the just reopened Paradise Theatre to our wealth of visual artists, galleries, world-class museums, musicians, filmmakers, theatre and dance groups. We have so many opportunities to come together. I encourage Canadians to take advantage of the many artistic offerings in our communities that allow us the opportunity to sing our favorite Christmas carols, hear our favorite stories, be with our friends and families, and share the warmth of this festive season. I wish everyone a joyous Christmas and a wonderful holiday season. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
It is a privilege to rise today for the first time in this 43rd Parliament. I want to thank the constituents in Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek for placing their confidence in me to serve as their representative here in Ottawa. With the 4th highest voter turnout in Canada, they sent a strong message, and I promise to work hard every day to ensure their voices are heard. Mr. Speaker, with the end of our session just days away and the Christmas season fast approaching, I want to take this opportunity to send Christmas greetings to my constituents, family, and friends. We have so much to be thankful for here in Canada. As we celebrate Christmas, may the humility of Jesus' birth be a reminder of our duty to care for the most vulnerable among us. To all members in this place and to all Canadians, may this season be filled with faith, hope, and love, and the new year be filled with many blessings. Have a safe and Merry Christmas.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, I'm honored to rise today in this House for the first time this 43rd Parliament to welcome new and returning members and to congratulate you on your election. I want to thank my constituents in Mississauga, Erin Mills, for placing their trust and confidence in me once again to be their strong voice in Ottawa. Thank you to my volunteers and to my team for your hope and hard work. Mr. Speaker, over the summer, I heard my constituents loud and clear about the issues that matter most to them, from climate change, pharmacare, affordable housing, seniors issues, fundamental human rights, and women empowerment, many of which I focused on and will continue advocating for as we proceed in this new parliamentary session. I look forward to working with all members in this House to push that needle towards progress. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, I'm rising today to honour a great person in the sports world, Jean Paget. He was with his loved ones when he died, and he was from the Saguenay region. He was always working behind the microphone, and his passion brought him to cover 12 Olympics, and he worked at Radio Canada for more than 17 seasons, and he also hosted a cult show in Quebec that was called 17%, and he won 8 Metro Star trophies and many other prizes. The National Assembly of Quebec underscored his contributions, and I offer my sincerest condolences to his family, his wife Brigitte, and I would like to thank Mr. Paget for all the wonderful moments he offered us on TV. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I want to acknowledge the bravery and tenacity of Iranians as they stand up against one of the world's most oppressive regimes, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Their protests began on November 15th and continue today despite the regime's violent response. This has resulted in over 1,000 deaths, 4,000 injured, and another 12,000 detained. This heartless regime is even demanding payment from families for the bullets that killed their loved ones before releasing their bodies. Yesterday was International Human Rights Day. This Liberal government must do more than a pitiful 5-sentence press release to condemn the human rights violations happening right now in Iran. Canada has the tools in place to take real action by finally sanctioning the Iranian officials responsible for these atrocities under our conservative Sergei Magnitsky law. Conservatives will always support the people of Iran in their pursuit of freedom, democracy, and human rights.
The honourable member for London, Fanshawe.
Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank my friends, supporters, volunteers, family, my mom and my dad, my partner, but I need to especially thank the people of London Fanshawe for putting their trust in me to be their voice in this House. For the past year, I've listened to their concerns, their struggles, their hopes and dreams. It is my promise to fight for them, to continuously be their voice in this chamber. Young people worked on my campaign, and I think of students like Jesse, Alyssa, Raina, and Nate who are being denied fair access to education. They are being forced to give up on their dreams because they can't pay skyrocketing tuition prices. And young people are struggling under the weight of crushing student debt at a very time when they should be excited about planning their futures. Instead of writing off billions in large corporate loans, the government can make accessing education a reality for Canadians. It's time to eliminate interest rates on student loans. It's time for the federal government to stop profiting from student debt.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Laclimy. The city of Saint Philippe has just wrapped up its anniversary, 275th anniversary activities, and on December 7th, citizens celebrated a wonderful Christmas celebration that was very successful. I'd like to congratulate the municipality of Saint Philippe and the mayor, Joanne Bolac, and its city council. They created wonderful opportunities to celebrate with families there. And I would also like to underscore the work of Ms. Marie-Josée Roy, the director of the activity department there, who coordinated various activities for the population of Saint Philippe. I'd like to congratulate all those who contributed to this wonderful year, and I would like to wish them a happy 275th anniversary in Saint Philippe.
Lethbridge.
A strong Canada is a unified Canada. The concerns of every single province do and should matter. Right now, 20% of young men in the province of Alberta are unemployed. And I'm not just talking stats, I'm talking faces. I'm talking real-life stories. 24-year-old IT graduate Joshua is one of 33,000 young men in the province currently looking for work and finding nothing. Sean had to leave the province in order to find work and now makes $3 an hour less than a working wage. Tyler is 24 years old, drives 3 hours to work, and barely makes enough money to support his 2 young girls. This is unacceptable. Alberta once thrived. Young people would come from the east and go to the west looking for adventure and work, a future, but not now. Now, the unemployment rate has doubled in the last 7 months, and the last time this happened was in 1983, under the last Trudeau. This is a crisis, Mr. Speaker, and it demands the attention of the current Prime Minister. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today.
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, 2 minutes, please. It's so little time for the young men and women who have left us and who we will never forget. It's so little time.
75th anniversary of the Italian campaign, in which I had the honor to be part of the delegation following the path of our 93,000 courageous Canadian soldiers that helped liberate Italy from fascist occupation. Each row of crosses I saw in each of the war cemeteries visited and the appreciation expressed by the Italian citizen brought me immense feelings of pride and gratitude for our Canadian soldiers. Mr. Speaker, nearly 6,000 Canadian soldiers paid the ultimate sacrifice during the Italian campaign for the value of freedom we hold so dear. And as we travel down these Italian roads with our 15 World War II veterans, we finished our song, 2 minutes, je vous prie.
2 minutes, please. It's so little time. May they rest in peace. And may we never forget their death. It's so little time. Thank you.
Merci.
Oral questions, question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after having made concession after concession on NAFTA, we discovered that the Prime Minister is asking Canadians to give even more. Can the Prime Minister explain exactly which concessions were made on Canadian aluminum? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. The new NAFTA agreement, with the new modifications as signed yesterday, represent a gain for aluminum workers. We are very proud that we were always there to defend aluminum workers, and we will continue to do so. We're now ensuring that automobile manufacturing in Canada will involve 70% of North American-made materials, and that means a lot of that will come from Quebec. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, yesterday a senior Democrat said that, quote, Canada conceded to just about every point that the Americans had asked for on the new NAFTA deal. And that's after senior Republicans said last year that the Prime Minister gave very graciously. Now, while Democrats and Republicans don't always agree on everything, they do seem to agree that this Prime Minister has failed Canadians when it comes to the new NAFTA negotiations. So will the Prime Minister finally admit that what he came back with from Washington was a weakened NAFTA than what he had when he first went down?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to take this moment to congratulate heartily the entire Canadian team for the great negotiation, particularly our Deputy Prime Minister, the member from University Rosedale. We strengthened environmental protections. We strengthened the support for workers. We moved forward on strengthened intellectual property and automotive rules of origin. We have ensured that access to our most important trading partner is solid for years to come. That is the work the Canadian team did in achieving the new NAFTA.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, when we're talking about being honest with Canadians, it's quite clear that the Prime Minister is attempting to bury the news that he still has absolutely no plan to balance the budget and that his high-tax, high-regulation policy is weakening the Canadian economy. Will the Prime Minister commit to tabling the long-term economic and fiscal projection in Parliament this week, and will he take the steps needed to protect Canada's economy from the negative headwinds?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we made a very different choice than the Conservatives do. Instead of cuts and austerity that the Conservatives put forward, we based our economic approach on investing in Canadians, on investing in their communities, on understanding that building a stronger future means giving everyone a real and fair chance to succeed. That is a choice we made as a Liberal Party. We got Canadians' support in 2015 and in 2019 to keep moving forward with a plan that invests in them for a brighter future for everyone.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad he said that they made the choices, because let's look at the results from their choices. Last month, 71,000 Canadians lost their job. 48% of Canadians are within $200 from not being able to pay their bills. Foreign direct investment into Canada has fallen by 56%. While other countries are seeing greater growth in Canada, this Prime Minister has created the conditions for a made-in-Canada recession. Will the Prime Minister abandon this course of action?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to talk about what we've been able to do for Canadians. We watched Canadians create over 1 million new jobs over the past 4 years. And our policies of investing in Canadians and their families have actually lifted over 900,000 Canadians out of poverty, including 300,000 kids. Now, we recognize there's more to do, and that's why we're going to keep investing in families, supporting Canadians, building for a brighter future every day through working with Canadians in communities right across the country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, yesterday this House voted to take the crisis between Canada and the government of China seriously by establishing a special committee to look at all aspects of this government's handling of that relationship. After unlawfully imprisoning 2 Canadians, after putting blocks on our exports of canola and other products, this Prime Minister still has not stood up for Canadians. Will the Prime Minister at least take the very practical step of withdrawing Canada's funding to the Asian Infrastructure Bank?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Over the past year, we have been working at all levels to ensure the safety of the Canadians being detained and indeed continue to advocate for their release. As we stand up for canola farmers, we protect our beef and pork exporters, as we continue to engage with this important trading partner while at the same time standing up for human rights every step of the way. We recognize that there is an opportunity to collaborate further on this special committee on China. We just certainly hope that the opposition parties are careful not to play politics and endanger the lives of those Canadians with it.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, we feared that the new NAFTA would be catastrophic for aluminum plants in Quebec. Today, Mr. Speaker, we know that that's the case. Not only will aluminum not be protected the way steel is, but worse, under the agreement, aluminum cannot be protected for a minimum of 10 years. The agreement says that 10 years after the agreement comes into force, the parties will be able to review the relevant demands in the interest of the parties so that aluminum can be protected. Did the Prime Minister decide to abandon aluminum workers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, allow me to clarify things a little bit, because the honourable member across the way is wrong. The new NAFTA represents a gain for aluminum workers. And with this agreement, 70% of aluminum used in the manufacture of automobiles in North America will have to be produced with North American aluminum. We know that most of that comes from Quebec, so this will be good for aluminum workers there. And we are always happy to defend aluminum workers. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, one of the two of us is wrong, but I'm not sure who. I read an extract of the text that was put online by the government, and that says, without the shadow of a doubt, that for the next 10 years, Canada will not allow itself to protect aluminum the way it has done for steel. I think that's very clear, and I want to know what the Prime Minister will tell the workers of the Quebec regions who are being sacrificed. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The new NAFTA represents a net gain for aluminum workers. Not only were we able to defend them by having the punitive 232 tariffs lifted, but we continued to defend access to the American market and to ensure that 70% of automobiles made in North America, the automobiles made in North America will use at least 70% of aluminum that is made in North America. And we know that that's good for Canadian workers.
Burnaby South.
Without actually protecting workers or the environment, the Liberals rushed to see the new NAFTA signed. American politicians did the work that the Liberals should have done.
Without protecting the environment or our workers, the Liberals were ready to sacrifice our future. Instead of counting on the Americans to defend our workers, will the Prime Minister commit to improving this process in the future? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
To improvements to the new NAFTA that strengthen environmental protection, strengthen labor protection, improve the automotive rules of origin, improve the protection of intellectual property, and settle a stronger state-to-state dispute settlement. These are all improvements we made to a deal that the NDP already said that the new NAFTA was the best deal possible. Indeed, the members of the NDP attending the Unifor reception highlighted that this was a much better deal than the deal that was signed 24 years ago. That was from Jerry Dias, the head of Unifor. We know that this is a good deal for Canadians.
Okay, now that everything's calmed down, I'll let the Honourable Member for Burnaby South continue.
Thank you very much.
More empty rhetoric without real action. Yesterday, the Prime Minister promised a national universal Medicare program.
The reality is, the Liberals have been promising universal pharmacare since 1997. Canadians shouldn't have to wait. And in fact, they don't need to wait. The Liberals can get to work right away. So my question to the Prime Minister, what's the timeline? When will all Canadians have their medication covered?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no Canadian should have to choose between paying for prescription drugs or putting food on the table. That's why we haven't waited. We acted right away and have done more than any government in a generation to lower drug prices in this country. And now it is time to take the next step towards national universal pharmacare, and that involves sitting down with the provinces to talk about how we're going to move forward on things like high-cost drugs for rare diseases, on moving forward on a national Canadian drug agency that's going to create a national formulary. There are many steps that we are embarking on right now because we know Canadians deserve a healthcare system that works for everyone.
The Honourable Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, this is the second time the Liberal government has announced a final agreement on NAFTA. Each time Canada's at the negotiation table, we seem to give away more. Maybe we should just accept this before we give away the farm, Mr. Speaker. Oh, wait, they already did that with dairy. With the auto industry and manufacturing growing in Mexico, why would the government give away our opportunity to sell more and more aluminum to Mexico in the future?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I understand that this is a recent development, but I recommend the member opposite take a little closer look at what actually was negotiated, because this is actually a significant
I realize I'm getting older, but it gets amplified, and I'm supposed to hear it from here, but I had a hard time. I just want to let the members know, in case they were wondering why I stood up. It does get kind of noisy at times, but I just want to let the Honourable Prime Minister answer the member for Durham's question.
This new NAFTA Accord represents a significant gain for aluminum workers and steel workers across Canada as we move forward with guaranteed percentages of 70% in the North American automobile industry for North American steel and aluminum. This provides predictability and stability for our workers across Canada. We're going to continue to work hard to defend our workers, as this government has done for the past 4 years.
Well, member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, the chairman of the U.S. Ways and Means Committee thanked Canada for conceding on all the new NAFTA amendments. Yep. This is after they gave graciously in the original deal. We know the Liberals have conceded on aluminum, impacting thousands of workers in Quebec. The Prime Minister's latest concessions come just weeks before the plant closure at GM Oshawa. How can the Prime Minister call this a win when workers in Quebec and auto workers in Ontario will lose?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the member opposite is saying is simply mistaken. This is an improvement for workers across this country, particularly steel and aluminum workers. We worked very, very hard with all parties, with our Mexican counterparts, with the Democrats and the Republicans, to ensure that this was a win-win-win for all three countries. And I can highlight that the improvements we achieved in this most recent and final version of NAFTA are significantly better for Canadians. We will always stand up for Canadian workers and for our most important trade deals with the Americans.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Well, there could not be a worse trade agreement than the one that Canada just negotiated. It's very simple. Canada, or rather the U.S. and Mexico, have a game plan, but we don't. As Jean Simard, the president of the Aluminum Association of Canada, said, Mexico has become China's North American backyard to dispose of its excess aluminum. How could the Prime Minister abandon our workers? And does he have any solutions for the industry to help us export more of our Saguenay aluminum, which is the cleanest on the planet? Right Honourable Prime Minister. The new NAFTA agreement is a gain for aluminum workers. I understand the concerns of our colleagues in this House, and I know that what they're trying to do is to create fear and anxiety, but the reality is that we are there to defend aluminum workers. And this trade agreement represents a gain for workers. Anyone who votes against that agreement would be voting against aluminum workers in the Saguenay and elsewhere in Quebec and Canada.
For Prince Albert.
Mr. Speaker, while the United States and Mexico continue to negotiate a better NAFTA for themselves, this Liberal government sat again on the sidelines. This was a missed opportunity for the Liberals to help industries such as aluminum and softwood lumber. The forestry sector is hurting. Mills are closing. People are losing their jobs. Why would the Prime Minister agree to a deal that does nothing for aluminum producers or our forestry workers?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
This new NAFTA deal is significant gains for our aluminum workers. On forestry workers, we remain extremely concerned with the difficult situations they're facing. We will continue to work very hard with our American counterparts alongside Canadian premiers, standing up for our forestry workers and encouraging the United States to come to an agreement on softwood lumber.
The honourable member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Monsieur le Président, hier.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the opposition showed the Prime Minister that he no longer controls this House. And yet the Prime Minister signed the new NAFTA deal without consulting opposition parties. It's clear from media reports that the Democrats were aware of this and they negotiated the new deal. But the Conservatives will not automatically accept this deal. When will the Prime Minister recognize that he needs the consent of opposition parties before making important decisions? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. We were very happy that we had the confidence of the House yesterday to continue moving forward with our plan to invest in communities and serve Canadians across the country. We will always work with our colleagues in this House to represent Canadians properly. We know that this new NAFTA will help Canadian workers, including in the steel and aluminum sectors, and it will help them have greater job security and more growth in their communities. The Honourable Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Speaker, not only did the Prime Minister not inform members of Parliament in Canada about the new NAFTA, he has sheepishly accepted the terms put forward by our trading partners. According to senior Democrats, the Prime Minister conceded to just about every point that we asked for in this most recent final agreement. So, Mr. Speaker, is this not the final agreement? When will the Prime Minister realize that here at home he doesn't have control of Parliament and he needs the support of opposition before finalizing major decisions?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to highlight the fact that we actually gained throughout this final process. We have significant advantages to Canada with the final text negotiated between Canada, the United States, and Mexico, and we're representing strong outcomes for Canadian workers, for Canadian businesses, and for Canadians from coast to coast to coast. We look forward to debate in this House on ratification of NAFTA, and I'm sure that all parliamentarians will support this deal that is good for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, before answering, I would ask the Prime Minister to listen very carefully to the question. Steel needs to come from North America to make components that are made in North America. But aluminum can come from anywhere in the world in order to make components that can be deemed North American. So that's not the same degree of protection. I would ask the Prime Minister to confirm that interpretation of the facts. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I can say that the Honourable Member is mistaken on those details. We did ensure protection for the aluminum industry. We ensured protection for our aluminum workers. 70% of the aluminum used by the automobile sector in North America will have to come from Canada, or rather from North America. That is a good thing for our workers. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, maybe that was a slip of the tongue. I mean, he said it could come from anywhere, not necessarily Quebec or Canada. Does the Prime Minister realize that by failing to protect aluminum for the next 10 years, he is inviting companies to invest elsewhere than in Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member is mistaken in his interpretation of what was agreed to with the U.S. and Mexico. This agreement represents a gain for the aluminum industry in Quebec and in Canada. And we know that with projects like Elysis and others, the aluminum industry really does represent great hope for the future of Quebec and Canada. We can be proud of that industry, and we will always defend our workers and our aluminum sector. The honourable member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, despite what he's been repeating from the beginning of question period, we learned yesterday that a significant sector, economic sector in Quebec and Canada paid the price for the Liberals' negotiations in NAFTA, and that's the aluminum sector. The Liberal government refused to stand up for aluminum workers who produce the cleanest aluminum in the world thanks to our hydroelectricity. Can the Prime Minister tell us today what he intends to do in order to ensure that those aluminum workers across Quebec and Canada will be protected? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Let me try this again, Mr. Speaker. This agreement represents a gain for aluminum workers. Before this agreement, there was a 0% guarantee in terms of automobile manufacturing. 0% of aluminum would have to go to American-built autos. Now we're talking about 70% North American content. That is a huge gain for our aluminum workers, whom we will always defend. The Right Honourable Member, the Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, apart from the Prime Minister, no one believes this version of the facts. The Republicans, Democrats, people from the aluminum industry, everyone is saying that there have been losses for this sector in Quebec and Canada. In the speech from the throne, we saw that there was nothing to meet Quebec's specific needs, and the Bloc won't be defending it either. Now, after dairy farmers, aluminum workers are going to be suffering. So what is the Prime Minister going to do to defend them? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. This new version of NAFTA is a gain for our aluminum workers. It forces aluminum auto manufacturers to use 70% of North American-made aluminum. Before this agreement, that percentage was 0. This is a gain, and it will protect aluminum workers in the Saguenay region and across Canada. We are very proud of it.
Honourable Member for Steveston, Richmond East. Mr. Speaker, today we have yet another casualty of the Liberals' war on Canadian energy. In my home province of British Columbia, media reports confirm that Chevron is pulling out of the largest private sector investment in Canadian history, the $40 billion Kitimat LNG project. This comes just one day after the Minister of Environment publicly cast doubts on the future of LNG in Canada. When will this government get serious and support Canada's energy sector and LNG in BC? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we were pleased to draw in the largest private sector investment in Canadian history with $40 billion in LNG Canada. We recognize that LNG is an important element.
Okay, the Honourable Prime Minister can continue, please.
We recognize that natural gas is an important element as we move forward to a lower carbon economy, and that is why we're pleased to be investing in LNG projects and partnering to see more LNG projects right across the country. We understand this is an important step towards that net zero we're going to hit in 2050.
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, the largest private sector investment in Canadian history is now at risk due to the actions of this Liberal government. Wow. Now, the disparaging comments by the Environment Minister towards liquefied natural gas has put the future in doubt as we now see Chevron pulling out of the project in Kitimat. We need a Canadian government that stands up for Canadian jobs. Changes are required to Bill C-69 to ensure that pipelines and facilities can be built. Does the Prime Minister agree with his senior BC minister that belittling Canadian energy is the right thing to do?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Canada is well positioned to become a major player in the global LNG industry. We propose projects both in the West and in the East, and strong measures in place to attract investment while also reducing emissions. Thousands of jobs have been created with the single largest private sector investment in Canadian history.
Interrupt the Honourable Prime Minister for a moment. I'm trying to hear the answer and I'm having a hard time. I just wanted to make sure everyone could hear. Right, Honourable Prime Minister, please.
We will continue to take action to ensure that Canada is on track to become the world's cleanest producer of LNG and reach global markets.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
In the 50s and 80s, an estimated 20,000 Indigenous children were stolen from their families and communities during the 60s scoop. There are reports of sexual, physical, emotional, cultural, and spiritual abuse at the hands of adoptive families. A settlement was awarded, but the application process is riddled with issues, and some survivors still haven't been informed about what they're owed. Victims deserve justice. Mr. Speaker, without stalling payments for those who've applied, will the Prime Minister extend the application date? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the 60s scoop represents a dark and painful chapter in our history. The court-approved settlement agreement process has begun to compensate survivors. The settlement includes a $50 million foundation for healing, commemoration, education, language, and culture. But we know there are other claims left unresolved, so we're working to address harm suffered by other Indigenous children as a result of the 60s scoop.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
For 7 months, the body of 16-year-old Devin Freeman hung on a tree 35 meters from the group home where he disappeared, and nobody found him. What a sad symbol for this nation. First Nation families are losing their children all the time to what the Human Rights Tribunal has ruled the willful and reckless discrimination and systemic underfunding by this government. So to this Prime Minister, stop with the honey-dripped words and call off the lawyers. Will he commit to meet with Cindy Blackstock to ensure that the Human Rights Tribunal ruling is respected so that no more children die on his watch or our watch?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we strongly agree that survivors, that we must compensate Indigenous children harmed by past government policies. We want to ensure that Indigenous people harmed under the discriminatory child welfare system are compensated in a way that is both fair and timely. We want to work with all parties to address this issue. We've demonstrated our commitment to addressing long-standing child and family service needs of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children.
Honourable Member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As this is the first time that I rise in this House, I'd like to take this occasion to congratulate you on both of your elections and thank my neighbours in Milton for the opportunity to serve in this room. Canadians understand the importance of having privileged access to our neighbouring markets. 2 million Canadian jobs depend on our trading relationship with our largest partner, the United States. Can the Prime Minister update the House on how the most recent changes to the new NAFTA will benefit and help Canadian workers and families like my neighbours in Milton?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I want to thank the member from Milton and want to welcome him and his strong progressive voice to this House of Commons. Yesterday, Canada, the United States, and Mexico took important steps towards the ratification of the new NAFTA. This agreement will help keep advanced medicines affordable for Canadians, improve labour protection, go further to protect the environment, and strengthen the state-to-state dispute settlement. This is a win-win-win that is progressive and will benefit workers, middle-class families, and the Canadian economy.
Honorable député de Louis Saint-Laurent.
Mr. Speaker, this is not a gain for Canadians. The current economic situation is showing signs of weakness. Unemployment went up last month. We're now close to 6%. Last month, 71,000 Canadians, including 45,000 Quebecers, who lost their jobs. Mr. Speaker, what message does the Prime Minister have for the 71,000 people who are looking for a job today? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. It is very difficult for families who are facing difficulties like losing their jobs. That's why we are there to help them. We know that over the last 4 years, Canadians created over 1 million jobs. but there's more left to be done. That's why we will continue to invest in families, to invest in communities, and we're going to invest in our children and our seniors and helping to generate economic growth throughout the entire country. That's a priority for us, and we will continue to work hard every single day to help those Canadians. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Those are fine words, but that doesn't give a job to these 71,000 Canadians who lost their jobs last month, and it doesn't help half of Canadian families who are $200 away from being in the hole. The Prime Minister and I and everybody here, we don't have that problem. We have a nice job. We've had it for about 2 months. We're not $200 away, but half of Canadian families are $200 away from disaster. What does the Prime Minister have to offer aside from fine words? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Investing in social housing is more than fine words. The Canada Child Benefit is more than fine words. It helps out hundreds of thousands of Canadians to have a better future and to get the support they need today. We recognize that there's still a great deal left to be done, but we're on the right track, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to invest in families, to help workers, to defend our workers. We will continue to create economic growth throughout the country by working hand in hand with all of our partners throughout the country.
Member for Carleton.
Well, the Prime Minister is still stuck with the self-serving triumphal talking points as before. It's like he didn't even notice that 71,000 people lost their jobs last month, that half of Canadians are less than $200 away from insolvency, that those insolvencies have reached decade-long highs. Yes. Will the Prime Minister put aside his self-praise for just a moment and get out of the way so that Canadians can get back to work and get ahead?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we recognize, even with the good news and the numbers over the past years, there are still far too many Canadians facing real difficulties. That's why we're going to continue with our anti-poverty strategy. That's why we're going to continue investing in families and supporting Canadians who need the help, including by increasing the Canada Child Benefit for children under 1, including by supporting our seniors with increases to the guaranteed to the old age security once they reach 75. We know there is much more to do, and we're going to remain focused on supporting Canadians right across the country because that's what this government does.
Well, member for Carleton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if self-praise could build economies and create jobs, then we wouldn't have lost 71,000 of those jobs last month. We wouldn't have a higher unemployment rate than across the average of the G7. We wouldn't have higher unemployment than the US, UK, Germany, and Japan. And we wouldn't have hundreds of thousands of people in energy, forestry, and manufacturing that have lost their jobs. Yes. Will the Prime Minister stop making rhetorical love to himself and get out of the way so Canadians can get back to work?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while members opposite choose to play politics, we're going to stay focused on Canadians. We're going to continue to invest in families that need help. We're going to continue to move forward on the national housing strategy that includes a portable Canada housing benefit that will allow Canadians to have more choices and better help in terms of their families and their housing needs. We're going to continue to invest in the kinds of things that tangibly help families facing difficult times be able to get back on track and move forward. While the parties opposite choose to sling mud and play politics, we're going to stay focused on families.
Bravo. L'honorable député de Jonquière. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, just to be clear with the Prime Minister, there is a country in North America called Mexico which does not produce aluminum. It imports it from China. There's a nation in North America called Quebec, which produces 90% of the aluminum of all of Canada. And I know that because it's happening in Lac-Saint-Jean, Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. When he says that it's not going to have an impact on my region, that's a big lie. Why is the Prime Minister using Quebec yet again as currency in international trade agreements? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, please allow me to be very clear. The new NAFTA agreement is a gain for aluminum workers. It requires car manufacturers to use at least 70% of aluminum from North America. Before that new agreement, that percentage was 0. We will always defend workers throughout the country, including in the aluminum sector. Before continuing, I would like to remind the members that when we say something in the House, we have to say something within the parliamentary parameters so that words are not taken the wrong way or to accuse someone of doing something that is not judicious. I would like to remind the members that when they call somebody by a name or suggest that someone is doing something that's not part of parliamentary behavior, that they need to reflect carefully before saying it. I understand that Parliament is new, a lot of people are new, and they're learning. We will take this opportunity to learn together. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, I see that the Prime Minister doesn't understand what he's signing, and it's frightening. When we talk about aluminum, these are men and women from Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean that we're talking about. These are fathers and mothers who are heads of households, not numbers in an accounting book. We now know that Quebec was sacrificed. Rather than making us try to believe that everything's going, could he please take 2 minutes to think about workers in the aluminum sector? Because worries in my region are very real, Mr. Speaker. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I understand those worries. I had meetings many times with those workers in the aluminum sector in Saguenay throughout Quebec. I recognize how innovations represent a very strong future for these workers. I also want to reassure them that what we're working on is important. That's why I say that going from 0 to 70% in terms of the requirement of North American aluminum to be used in the auto sector in North America is a good thing for aluminum workers.
For Niagara Falls. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The final meeting in Australia's World Trade Organization challenge to the federal excise exemption for 100% Canadian-made wines concluded last week. A loss in this case puts 9,000 Canadian wine industry jobs at risk. The Australians have indicated they are open to negotiating a settlement, but for some reason this has not happened. When will the Prime Minister pick up the phone, call his counterpart in Australia, and fight for Canada's wine industry?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I have had direct discussions with my Australian counterparts on the issue of of protection of Canadian wine industry. We will continue to work with the WTO, with all of our trade allies around the world to ensure protection for Canadians while we uphold the rule of law and the rules-based trading system.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Skyview.
Time standing in the House, I would like to thank my family, volunteers, and constituents of Calgary Skyview. The Prime Minister's attack on the energy sector has hit Alberta particularly hard. He refuses to amend his No Pipeline Bill C-69. The Prime Minister thinks male construction workers have negative impact on rural areas. Well, yesterday we learned that unemployment among young men in my province is at 20%. Is this what the Prime Minister wanted when he was talking about gender impacts?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we take very seriously the situation faced by workers in the prairies, including in Alberta and Saskatchewan. That is why I was pleased to sit down with Premier Kenney yesterday and talk about various initiatives we could work on together to solve and support some of the challenges faced by workers in Alberta. We're going to continue to roll up our sleeves and work hard to make sure that we are supporting Canadians right across the country and creating opportunities for people in the West.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government voted over a year and a half ago to immediately list the Iranian government's IRGC as a terrorist entity, and the listing process does not take this long. The IRGC is a tool of widespread oppression. In Iraq, hundreds of protesters have been murdered as they seek to resist Iranian regime influence. This government has once again failed to stand with people seeking freedom and is instead appeasing their oppressors. Will the government come clean today and admit that they actually have no intention of listing the IRGC in its entirety?
Here, here.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite mentioned the protests in Iraq. Well, we strongly condemn the escalating violence in Iraq that has resulted in the deaths of hundreds of protesters and injured thousands more. We urge all parties to exercise restraint and refrain from violence. We support the people of Iraq who deserve stability, prosperity, and security. Human rights, including the right to protest and freedom of expression, must be protected. We continue to work closely with our allies and partners to follow the situation and play a constructive role.
The Honourable Member for Brampton East.
Mr. Speaker, as this is my first time rising in this House, I'd like to thank my family, volunteers, and constituents for giving me the honour and privilege to serve. This week, the government tabled a Notice of Ways and Means motion which proposes to lower taxes for the middle class and to increase working capital by increasing the basic personal income to $15,000 by 2023. Can the Honourable Prime Minister tell this House what this change means for middle-class families?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I want to thank and congratulate the member for Brampton East. I know he will serve his constituents well. As the very first order of business, we're lowering taxes for the middle class and for people working hard to join it. Starting in 2020, this will put more money back in the pockets of Canadians. It'll lift tens of thousands of people out of poverty, and families, including single parents, will save nearly $600 every year. We hope all other parties in this House will support these measures.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Nose Hill.
More MVNOs will have an impact in Canada. Recent rulings which could allow for more MVNOs are being heavily appealed. It is a heated issue with extensive lobbying being placed on many members of this House. Given the importance of this issue, could the Prime Minister tell the House his vision for MVNOs in Canada, if he thinks they're important or not, and his government's position on recent related rulings that he is being requested to intervene in?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we made a commitment in the last election to decrease cell phone bills by 25% for Canadians. That is something that we will do by working with the industry, and if they don't bring down their prices, bring in significant measures around more competition in the industry to provide better opportunities for Canadians. This is a commitment we've made that'll save Canadian families thousands of dollars. We know that lowering cell phone prices is a priority for Canadians that we are going to take up.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
It has taken Canadian ranchers decades to recover from the bovine spongiform encephalopathy crisis. That recovery was given a stunning setback when the Liberal government missed a deadline to apply to the World Animal Health Organization for negligible risk status. As a result of that, Ontario farmers, because of lack of process capacity and their inability to sell their fed cattle to the United States, they are suffering the consequences of this Liberal failure. Can the Prime Minister please explain to Canadian farmers why he failed to apply to the World Animal Health Organization for negligible risk status for BSE?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue to stand up for Canadian agricultural producers, including our beef and pork farmers. We were pleased to re-secure access to the Chinese market after a period of time. We're going to continue to demonstrate world-class protection of our agricultural processes and ensure that people around the world know that Canadian products are world-class, the best in the world, and should be encouraged access everywhere in the world.
The Honourable Member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, this government's new jury selection rules have already been found to be unconstitutional in Ontario. Further, courts have been split on whether to apply the charges on a go-forward basis or retroactively. This confusion, created solely by very poorly drafted Liberal legislation, could have the impact of nullifying more than 30 guilty verdicts, including in a murder trial. How will the Prime Minister fix his mistake to ensure that murderers do not walk free?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the confidence Canadians have in our justice system must always be strengthened, and that's why we're continually looking at ways to improve the administration of justice and the fairness of our justice system across the country. We will continue to work with experts, with partners, and I commend our Attorney General with the extraordinary task that he has to make sure that every day we improve our system of government and of governance and of judicial oversight for Canadians.
L'honorable député de Sherbrooke.
Monsieur le Président. Mr. Speaker, Canadians clearly showed during the last election that they want the federal government to take measures to fight climate change. They clearly indicated that we have to not only put a price on pollution, but invest in infrastructure projects that will help us to fight and mitigate the effects of climate change. Can the Prime Minister update this House on current and future investments by the government in infrastructure, in green infrastructure, rather? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, I would like to thank the member for Sherbrooke for her question and congratulate her for having won her seat. Green infrastructure is essential to build a sustainable future for our country. We've earmarked $30 billion for infrastructure. Throughout the entire country, projects have been approved in order to deal with consequences of things like flooding, for instance. We're going to invest in the future of our country with projects that intend to reduce emissions and build more resilient and sustainable communities.
Okanagan, West Kootenay. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government paid $4.5 billion for an old pipeline. They said they'd make money on the deal. But today, the Parliamentary Budget Office reported that Canada is actually losing money on the operation of the pipeline, giving oil companies a break worth billions. An economist, Robin Allen, has shown that the toll charges Canada charges on the pipeline cover only 1/3 of the actual costs. So instead of giving oil companies billions of dollars in subsidies, why don't the Liberals use that money now to invest in a low-carbon economy?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We recognize, Mr. Speaker, how important it is to get our resources to new markets other than the United States. Indeed, for 10 years, a Conservative government was unable to do just that, which is why we are moving forward with the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. But at the same time, we recognize how important it is to invest in renewable energies, in a cleaner future for everyone, which is why all the profits from the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion will go into nature-based solutions and new technologies that's going to allow us to continue to grow our economy, create new jobs well into the future right across the country.
There have been discussions among representatives of the parties in the House, and I understand that we will now proceed to a tribute to our former colleague, the Honourable Deepak Oberoi. I now recognize the member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Mr. Speaker, sometimes the House of Commons can be a harsh and unfair place, and the 42nd Parliament was particularly cruel. Between the election of 2015 and the date, 6 months ago, on which the Commons rose, we lost a number of colleagues. Jim Hillier, who was only 41 years old when he passed away at his Hill office in March 2016. Maurice Bélanger, dans le rêve d'être président de la Chambre.
Who dreamed of being leader of the House, but unfortunately he was taken away by an untimely disease.
Whose promising career was cut short by cancer in September 2017. Gord Brown, who was taken from us by a massive heart attack in May 2018. Mark Warawa, who passed away just days before the House rose in June of this year. But when we left here, there was at least one fixture on the Conservative side of the House who seemed eternal. Deepak Oberoi, the member for Calgary East Forest